And I want to make a video today about something that isn't very important, but I still want to make it anyway. We all know that when the church shooting happened recently, the media immediately jumped on the fact that the guy fled and then killed himself. And then when they were called on the fact that it doesn't look like he killed himself and just ran away and said, well, I'm done, so I'm going to kill myself, which often happens, he was confronted by another armed civilian, an armed citizen, a good guy with a gun, and then he was shot by that good guy with a gun and fled. Well, the media began reporting that he was confronted by someone, but they still didn't say that someone shot him. Then they finally, after a lot of pressure, finally started admitting that, well, they exchanged fire. And then finally they had to say he shot him. There was too much evidence out there that a good guy with a gun shot the bad guy with a gun and caused him to flee and possibly die. But then they started saying, but he still committed suicide at the end. That's what really stopped him. Because they just couldn't admit that a good guy with a gun stopped him. I know I've harped on this for the past week, but I'm getting to my point here. So they just wouldn't admit that. So then, even after they got called on to where they had to admit that he was shot by someone else, they said, well, what killed him was a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. And people start saying, okay, well, where are you getting that information? And at first they said, well, the autopsy shows. CNN was one of the first people to say that. Washington Post was one of the first people to say that. And then when they were called on the fact that the autopsy wasn't available yet, I was one of the first people out there like, the autopsy's not available yet, so where are you getting this from? I sent multiple letters to different organizations, actually got a couple responses, and they said, well, it's been corrected to that. We were quoting a source in the police department that said the autopsy report said this. And then they were not able to produce that person in the police department that said they referenced the autopsy report because the autopsy report still wasn't available. So then they changed their story to, well, that information was based on information the police department gave us based on what they saw at the scene, which was the day it happened. And if you go back and you research, if you look up this guy's name and autopsy, you won't find it. You'll find a lot of things referencing it from 3 days ago, 4 days ago, 2 days ago, a day ago, but you don't actually see the autopsy. In fact, if you reference a lot of them and you actually read the article itself won't say anything about autopsy. It'll only be in the comment section of the article. So my question is, where's the autopsy? Basing it on what police said at the scene, they said, well, they showed up and he had 2 wounds from the shooter that shot him, the good guy with a gun, and 1 self-inflicted. Well, how do they know that from looking on the scene? You're not going to be able to tell that. You can't tell crap. They just said, they looked at it and they saw that he was wounded in the thigh, in the torso, and in the head. And being police officers who don't know a lot about ballistics or a lot about the human body, they said, well, obviously the one in the head killed him instantly. I'd be willing to bet that was their summary judgment when they saw that. I don't think summary is actually appropriate there, but just going to stick by it. And, you know, that's because they don't have a lot of knowledge on how bullets perform in the body and what types of shots take people down immediately. I guarantee you that you and I and anyone that carries every day has done more research into how ammunition actually performs in a human body, or how it performs, period, how our bodies react to being shot. We've done much more research into that. We're much more knowledgeable in that category than almost all police officers, especially ones that don't carry as part of their civilian life, don't have a particular interest in firearms. So it'd be very easy to see where they saw, well, he had 3 gunshot wounds, and obviously a gunshot to the wound would have killed him instantly, so that can't be what killed him. So the other ones can't be what killed him. That would be easy to see them making that erroneous judgment, where it could have been very easily that the guy from behind him gave him a shot to the head as he was fleeing, and he eventually bled out as he was traveling down the road. Let's not forget, he got in the car and called his father immediately and said, I've been shot and I'm not going to live. So he didn't think he was going to survive his wounds. He didn't say anything about, I'm going to kill myself or I'm going to end it. He just didn't think he was going to survive his wounds. Now, like I said, there's every possibility that he did decide that this is taking too long and it hurts. Boom, I'm going to make it shorter. But it's still, the good guy with the gun stopped him, period. And the autopsy doesn't really matter. But the only reason I want to see the autopsy is because I want the media to have to confront that whole string of bias that they had during the whole event. How they didn't want to admit that a good guy with a gun stopped him. How then when they wanted to pretend like it wasn't really that guy that stopped him, it was he stopped himself. You know, just all that garbage. So let's see the autopsy report. Where is it? Why can't we see it yet? It should have been available by now. How did this guy die? Did he die from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head? Which, believe me, on the scene would have been impossible to tell pretty much. Would have been pretty much impossible to tell. So unless he's like laying there dead with the gun in his hand up against his cheek and a bullet hole going straight up through. You're not going to tell that it was a self-inflicted wound. It could have, you wouldn't have even known point of entry, point of exit by just looking there on the scene. They don't actually do a very in-depth study of the body while they're there. They call other people in for that, and everything they were saying wasn't based on the coroners coming in and saying that. It was based on police reports at the scene that he had 3 gunshot wounds and that likely the one to the head was the one that killed him. But like I say, that's based on a lack of knowledge. That's based on the assumption that a shot in the head will kill you instantly, that a lot of people seem to have. So I just want to see the autopsy report. That's all I want. I think most people out there want to see the autopsy report. It's not going to change anything. A good guy with a gun still stopped him. But come on, media, if you want to prove that you had a point the whole time, let's at least see an autopsy report so where we can show that he did kill himself in the end after being stopped by a good guy with a gun.